بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. I remind you to have a sincere intention in your heart, seeking reward from Allah Ta'ala by attending the lesson. In our previous lesson, we had started talking about sins of the heart. Inshallah Ta'ala, we will continue with this chapter today. To improperly think that Allah will withhold His mercy in the hereafter, this is also among the sins of the heart. The person does not know. So one is to be hopeful of Allah's mercy, okay? And not to think that for sure Allah will not be merciful to him if this person dies as a Muslim, okay? So one is not to think that for sure Allah will torture him and not have mercy on him. No, okay? So then this sin is to improperly think that Allah will withhold His mercy in the hereafter. The next sin of the heart is thinking ill of Allah's slaves without relying on a valid indication. And subhanAllah, many people fall into this sin. This is such as accusing someone of stealing one's money without having a valid indication of such an excuse or of such an accuse. So this is an example for that is if a person accuses another of stealing one's money, even though this person does not have a valid indication that such a person stole his money. So he is not to accuse him if he does not have a valid proof, a valid indication showing that this person really stole his money. So he's not to think ill of this other person. And many people fall into this, especially when they have, for example, in a disagreement between each other, they might rush to think ill of this other Muslim. Or if something happens, they think, it is because of him, or he did that to me. Well, how do you know? If you do not have a valid indication for such an accuse, then you are not to do that. It could be somebody else and not this person. So then we should not think ill of our Muslim brothers and sisters without having a valid indication. Another sin of the heart is denying predestination. Denying that all things are predestined by Allah is among the sins of the heart, which is actually judged as kufr, disbelief. So if a person believed that something happened and believed that this was not predestined by Allah, then this person falls into disbelief, into kufr, into blasphemy. Because the Muslim believes that everything is predestined by Allah. Everything, whether deeds or thoughts or beliefs, everything is predestined by Allah. Whether what is good or what is bad, both are predestined by Allah. This is the belief of Muslims, that everything that happens in accordance to the will of Allah. Allah knows of it, and what happens was predestined eternally by Allah. Now we need to be careful. SubhanAllah, there are people nowadays who claim to be Muslims, yet they hold a belief that is contrary to the Islamic belief. They claim that the bad deeds happen not by the predestination of Allah. Some people today claim to be Muslims, yet they hold a belief that contradicts the fundamentals of Islam, and that is that they believe that the bad deeds are not predestined by Allah. And this belief of theirs is kufr, is blasphemy. Because, as we said, Muslims believe that everything is predestined by Allah, whether good or bad. Both are predestined by Allah. However, I want to draw your attention to an important matter here. Both good and bad are predestined by Allah, but Allah accepts the good and does not accept the evil. Allah orders us to do the good and forbids us from doing the evil. Okay? So both good and bad are predestined by Allah. Both happen by the will of Allah, but Allah accepts the good and does not accept the evil. Allah orders us to do the good and forbids us from doing the evil. And a proof to that also is that we know that Satan, the devil, exists and he is evil. Who created him? Allah. Allah created Satan, and Satan is evil. So everything that comes into existence because Allah created it. Allah is the creator of everything, whether what is good or what is bad. Everything happens by the will of Allah. Everything that happens is by Allah predestining that, whether that thing that happened is good or bad. So this matter is among the fundamentals of the belief. If a person denied that Allah predestined everything that happens, this person would not be a Muslim. And this person would have to say the two Shahada to embrace the religion of Islam. So this was then also among the sins of the heart, to deny predestination, to deny that all things are predestined by Allah Ta'ala. Also among the sins of the heart is being happy about a sin committed, whether by oneself or others, even if one did not witness that sin. For example, the person heard of another one committing a sin. He is not to be happy. We should not be happy when a sin is being committed, whether this sin was committed by oneself or by another person. We should not be happy when a sin is being committed. And a rule here that you need to know: if a person accepting the sin, this is not good. This is not okay. All right? We do not accept the sins. We are not happy when a sin is being committed. When a person commits a sin and this person is accountable, he deserves the punishment for that. So this is not to be taken lightly. Even if the one who committed the sin is a person whom you dislike. Let's say you have an argument with. Let's say you dislike each other. Still, you do not want for this person to commit sins. Even if this person is a disbeliever, a kafir, still, you are not to be happy when this disbeliever commits sins. And you do not accept for this kafir to commit a sin. Some people think that when a disbeliever commits a sin, they think that this is okay. This person is already a disbeliever. Well, even if he is a disbeliever, every time he is committing another sin, it's being recorded for him. Every time this disbeliever, this kafir, commits another kufr, this is written for him and his situation becomes worse. And of course, we are not to be pleased by that, nor to be happy by that. For we do not accept disbelief, we do not accept kufr, and we do not accept sins. So we also should not be happy when another person commits a sin, even if this other person is a kafir or a person whom we have an argument with. We still should not be happy if we know that they are committing a sin. Okay? Also, among the sins of the heart is betraying someone, even a non-Muslim, such as promising him safety by telling him, for example, you are safe, I will not harm you, and then killing that person, for example. So, if you gave a disbeliever safety, you told him that he is safe, okay? You promised him safety. In this case, then you do not betray him afterwards and you do not kill him when you have promised him safety. All right? Also, among the sins of the heart is inflicting harm through deceit. And another sin of the heart is hating the Prophet's companions, meaning the Sahaba, and the same applies to cursing them. Now, we mentioned in the previous lessons who is a person who is a companion, who is a Sahabi. So, hating the Prophet's companions in general, this is a sin. Okay, we're not talking about specific ones, we are talking in general here. The Sahabi, the companion, is a person who met the Prophet alayhi salam and was a believer when he met the Prophet, and this person died as a believer. Then this person is referred to as a companion, as a Sahabi. Okay, so there were people who met the Prophet and who believed in him, but then they became non-Muslims. They died as kafir. So we do not call them a companion of the Prophet. They're not called a Sahabi in this case. There were, on the other hand, people who lived at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and they believed in the Prophet and died as believers, as Muslims, but they did not have the opportunity to meet the Prophet ﷺ, even though they lived during the same time, the same era, but they did not have the opportunity to meet the Prophet ﷺ. So in this case, they are not referred to as a companion. They are not a Sahabi. Okay? Also, among the sins of the heart is hating the Muslim relatives or wives of the Prophet ﷺ, or hating the righteous Muslims. Now, the righteous Muslims are the pious and God-fearing believers who perform the obligations and refrain from committing sins. They perform the obligations and they refrain from committing sins, mashallah, and this is a high rank to achieve, to be a righteous Muslim. About what I mentioned, dear? If it is about what I mentioned, go ahead, dear. Otherwise, let's wait until the end. Type your question if you want. Also, among the sins of the heart is miserliness. Miserliness is referred to in Arabic as bukhul. Now here I want you to be careful. When is it a sin? We are talking about a sin here. Bukhul, miserliness, that is a sin of the heart. What is it? This means stinginess with regard to what Allah made obligatory, such as not paying the obligatory zakah, for example. You know, some people might call a person stingy, let's say, because, for example, he does not want to go to a fancy restaurant. No, we're not talking about this case. We're not talking about that. No. Rather, we are talking about somebody who does not pay what he is obligated to pay in the religion, such as he has zakah due that he is obligated to pay, and he is able to pay it, yet he does not pay it. Okay, so this is an example of miserliness, bukhul, which we just mentioned. Okay, so your question, my dear sister, is if a person met the Prophet, believed in him after the death of the Prophet. So you mean when he met the Prophet, he did not believe in the Prophet. And after the Prophet died, then this person became a believer? If this was your question, dear, the answer to that is no, he is not a companion. Because, as we said, to be called a companion, there are three things that need to be there. And that is that the person met the Prophet while being a Muslim and died being a Muslim. Okay? Now, another sin of the heart is parsimony. And this is referred to in Arabic as shuh. This is referred to in Arabic as shuh. And this is synonymous with miserliness, bukhul, except that shuh, in its technical sense, signifies severe stinginess. For example, this person neither pays zakah nor supports his wife. Okay, so it is more, it is severe stinginess. Okay, so an example for that, as we mentioned, this person not only does not pay the obligatory zakah that is due on him, but on top of that, for instance, he does not support his wife with obligatory spending. Okay. Also, among the sins of the heart is greedy avarice. And what is that? This is having a strong desire to be rich, such as gathering money with disregard whether or not it is coming from a halal, from a lawful, or from an unlawful source, but with the purpose of showing off and looking down on others, and only intending to spend the money on unlawful things that one desires. And as we said, this person cares about gathering money with disregard whether it is from a lawful source or from an unlawful source, with the purpose of showing off and looking down on others, and only intending to spend the money on unlawful things. Okay, so this is among the sins of the heart as well. May Allah Ta'ala protect us from that. Also, among the sins of the heart is to display carelessness and to neglect the required respect for what Allah glorified. So, matters in the religion that are glorified, we should glorify them. Okay, we should not be careless in this regard, but we should glorify what the Sharia, the Islamic law, dictates as being glorified. Also, among the sins of the heart is belittling what Allah magnified, be it obedience or sin. Okay, so if a matter in the religion has a high status, one should not belittle it. So, an example that we need to be careful of that and not fall into it. Some people commit a sin and then they say that it's okay, it's no big deal. And this is not to be said. A sin is a sin, it's not a good thing. Okay, so we should not think of it as nothing, as if it is nothing. No, it is something that the person who is accountable when he commits it, he deserves the punishment for that. So one should not say, oh, it's no big deal, it's nothing. So we should be careful with that, because some people might commit the sin and then on top of that say that it is okay. It is not okay. All right. So if a person commits a sin, he should not say that it is okay or no big deal about it. If he commits a sin, he should right away repent from that sin. Among the sins of the heart is also belittling the Quran. And this, of course, is kufr. Belittling the Quran is kufr. And long ago, there was a person who was a blasphemer known as Al-Hallaj. He was writing something. And when a person asked him what he was doing, he said, this is something to rival the book of God. He means he is authoring something. He claimed that it is similar to the Quran. And of course, this is kufr. His saying and his deed is kufr. So, belittling the Quran is a sin of the heart that reaches the level of disbelief. SubhanAllah, sometimes some people, when they want to make jokes, they are not careful. They do not watch their tongues and they're just, into making jokes and making people around them laugh. And it has happened that people made jokes about matters that are about the belief. They made jokes in which they belittled matters in the religion of Islam. And this is very dangerous. SubhanAllah, we should be careful before we speak. We think, is this what I'm going to say good or bad? Am I sure whether it is good or bad or not? Do I know the judgment of it or not? If it is bad, for sure I don't say it. And if I'm not sure of the judgment, then let me not say it. Okay, you don't want to say it and then regret it. So first find out about the judgment before you say it. And also, when we are laughing at jokes, let us think, what is this that is being said? Is this something okay to laugh at or no? Because nowadays, subhanAllah, we're living in times where many people are careless. And many people, as I said earlier, they say jokes where they belittle matters pertaining to their religion. Ramadan is coming up soon, and we should be careful. We do not make jokes of fasting. We do not make jokes of the Muslim Eid. We do not make jokes of the month of Ramadan. We are to be careful with such matters. Also, among the sins of the heart is belittling paradise. Such as what some people say, they say that paradise is a child's game. This saying of theirs indicates belittling of paradise, and this is kufr. Paradise is something that Allah Ta'ala promised the believers with. So we should not belittle paradise. We should strive to go to paradise without torture. Also, among the sins of the heart is belittling the torment in hellfire. The torture in hellfire is severe. It is a lot stronger than the fire that we have today in this world. Okay, the fire in hell is a lot more severe. So we do not belittle the torment in hellfire. such as what some people say. Some people say that hellfire is a hospital and not a place of torture. And this saying of theirs belies the teachings of Islam, because we know clearly that it is mentioned in the Quran that hellfire is a place of torment. There is severe pain, severe torture in hellfire. So by that, we concluded the chapter which talks about the sins of the heart. Inshallah ta'ala, in our next lesson, we will talk about the sins of the abdomen.